Welcome to Trending Unpacked, the show where we unravel what everyone's talking about. Today, we're looking at something that honestly feels both completely baffling and, when you dig into it, almost inevitable. It involves, one of the biggest coffee chains on the planet, the holiday season, and just this eruption of consumer mania. We saw queues forming before dawn, actual physical fights breaking out, and resale prices that just went through the roof. We are, of course, talking about the Starbucks Bear Cup phenomenon.
Almost sounds like a punchline, doesn't it?
Right, like a cute little tumbler
Mm.
with a teddy bear on it, caused brawls.
Yeah. But it's precisely that absurdity that makes it such a fascinating case study for, how things work now.
Exactly. Because when you look past the plastic bear and the festive glitter, you find this perfect storm, really. It's consumer fandom meeting manufactured scarcity, all turbocharged by social media. It wasn't just a cup. It became this weird cultural moment. Okay, let's unpack this. How on earth did a piece of holiday merchandise become, like, the most contested item on the internet?
Well, it's a textbook example, really. As you said, the absurdity highlights the mechanism so clearly. It gives us this almost high-definition view of how quickly status and demand can be built today, almost out of thin air sometimes. We're looking at how Starbucks ran a very specific, very calculated playbook, and then how the internet, particularly social media algorithms, just grabbed that playbook and amplified it into, well, genuine physical chaos in some places. The forces at play here, scarcity, the whole cute aesthetic algorithmic amplification, they're way more interesting than the cup itself, ultimately.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. For anyone who maybe missed the tidal wave of TikToks and news reports, what was this bear cup before it became a symbol of, well, consumer combat?
Right, at its core, it was just seasonal merchandise. Starbucks has been doing this for years, hasn't it? They have a pretty successful sideline in collectibles, reusable tumblers, mugs, often tied to holidays like Christmas or maybe cherry blossom season in Japan.
Yeah, they always have those displays near the checkout.
Exactly. So the Bear Cup was part of that holiday lineup. A limited edition tumbler. Yeah, it could be thermal, could be ceramic. It varied a bit by region. But the key thing, the element that really drove the frenzy, was that design feature. The little teddy bear.
And it wasn't just like a picture of a bear printed on the side, was it? Some of them were actually like 3D.
That's right, yeah. That was crucial. The sources mentioned different versions, different markets got slightly different things, but the ones that really seemed to capture imaginations, the most coveted ones, they had this very Instagrammable, very tactile element, like a small sculpted bear figure built into the lid, maybe sitting on the straw, or sometimes inside a double-walled clear tumbler, maybe with glitter, looking like it was sort of floating in there.
Ah, okay. So designed for maximum visual appeal.
Totally. Engineered for cuteness, for that instant, oh, I need that reaction you get when you see something really well-designed and, well, adorable. It hits you right away.
So the cuteness factor was the hook. But the engine driving the whole thing, as you said, was scarcity. And this wasn't just a U.S. thing, right? It kicked off globally.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
This wasn't, some local promotion in Seattle that just happened to go viral worldwide.
Wow.
No, this was a coordinated but selective global launch. Starbucks strategically chose specific markets to release this.
Which markets?
Places where they knew the appetite for limited edition stuff, especially branded collectibles, is already super high. We're talking China, Japan, South Korea, and yeah, the U.S. as well. But that focus on East Asian markets is particularly revealing, I think.
How so?
Well, in places like South Korea and China especially, you have this incredibly vibrant collectible culture. The demand for aesthetic, visually premium goods, particularly limited releases tied to seasons or holidays, it's just immense.
Yeah.
These markets have really sophisticated, highly organized networks of collectors and resellers already. They're primed for this kind of scarcity model. They understand it. They participate in it actively.
So the moment you say targeted markets, it clicks. This wasn't just, oh, people liked our cute cup. This was Starbucks very consciously using the drop model, right? Like you see with sneakers or high-end streetwear.
Precisely. If you break down the brand strategy, it's pure retail theater. It's performance. Limited edition releases like this are designed to do two main things. First, drive that immediate, intense emotional connection, the look at the little bear reaction. And second, establish collectability. That's the key. That collectability translates directly into high perceived value, way beyond the cost of materials or manufacturing.
Okay, so you create demand that wildly outstrips supply.
Exactly. And that makes the item itself feel inherently more valuable, more special than its physical components would suggest.
But I mean, why go through all that trouble? The massive queues, the potential for bad press if things get out of hand. Just for a coffee cup? What's
Right.
the bigger win for Starbucks beyond just selling a bunch of tumblers for a few days?
Well, they gained something far more valuable than just the sales figures. They gain cultural relevance. They gain media saturation. The kind of buzz that marketing budgets, can't easily buy. They're basically borrowing a playbook perfected by other industries. And this is where we need to make that connection you mentioned. This isn't traditional retail logic. It's hype culture logic.
Right. It's not about selling coffee anymore.
Not primarily with this product. What's really fascinating is seeing a global beverage retailer modeling its merchandise strategy directly on tactics pioneered by high-end streetwear brands and collectible toy companies.
Yeah.
Think about Nike SB Drops, right? Or limited Yeezy releases. Or maybe an even better comparison, think about Funko Pops.
Oh, the Funko Pop analogy is perfect because those are, they're basically mass-produced vinyl figures, pretty standardized.
Yeah.
But the limited edition chase variants or the convention exclusives, they instantly become these high-value assets. The value isn't intrinsic at all. It's totally manufactured by scarcity.
Exactly right. Starbucks gets that. They understand that a standard reusable tumbler is, well, it's utility. It holds your drink. Fine. But the second you apply the scarcity model, the drop model, that same utility object transforms. It's not just a cup anymore. It becomes an asset. It becomes a status symbol. And maybe most importantly today, it becomes cultural currency.
Yeah, cultural currency.
Meaning it shifts the consumer's motivation. It's no longer about, I need something to carry my latte. It becomes, I need to possess this specific rare artifact to signal that I'm part of this cultural moment, that I'm in the know.
So owning it says something about you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This whole manufacturing of scarcity is incredibly effective. It drives foot traffic, obviously, people lining up. It generates tons of organic social media buzz-free advertising, essentially. And crucially, it keeps the brand relevant, especially with younger consumers like Gen Z, who often prioritize unique, hard-to-get items as markers of identity.
Okay, so they basically engineered the perfect little scarcity bomb, wrapped it up in cute, festive packaging, and then just, boom, detonated it in key markets globally. But designing the bomb is one thing. The actual explosion, the sheer scale of the frenzy, that needed the modern accelerator, right? The internet. Let's pivot to that viral moment, because that's where you really see the chaos unfold in real time. Where did this thing first catch fire online?
Right, the ignition point was incredibly fast. And it wasn't like one single video went viral. It was more like a decentralized wildfire. It really took off on TikTok globally for the sheer scale and the dramatic visuals. But perhaps even more importantly for the immediate chaos in Asian markets, especially China, was Xiaohongshu.
Xiaohongshu, that's Little Red Book, right?
That's the one.
Why is that distinction important? We hear a lot about TikTok driving global trends, but how does Xiaohongshu or XHS work differently in this context?
Well, XHS is a really critical piece of the puzzle, especially in the Chinese market. It's not just a place for funny videos or dances. It's this hybrid social media and e-commerce platform. It's intensely focused on lifestyle, luxury goods, beauty, travel, and crucially, user-generated reviews and buying guides that people really trust.
So it's more about recommendations.
Exactly. It operates almost like a closed-loop system. Users rely heavily on the aesthetic posts, the haul videos, the reviews from what they call key opinion leaders or KOLs, but also just regular users whose taste they trust. So on XHS, when someone posts a really beautiful photo or video of the Bear Cup, maybe styled perfectly with their outfit or their apartment, that recommendation carries immense weight within that community.
Okay. It's not just, look what I got. This is the aesthetic you should aspire to.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the platform makes that journey from seeing it to desiring it to figuring out how to buy it incredibly fast. It sort of short-circuits the usual consumer decision process. It fuels this frenzy where people feel this intense pressure to get the item now to maintain their status within their particular online aesthetic tribe.
So TikTok brings the global eyeballs and the drama, maybe, but XHS provides that localized, trusted, almost e-commerce-like acceleration.
You got it. That combination is potent.
So the visual proof of ownership, posting your picture with the cup, became the ultimate marketing. It started with just showing off the haul, I guess, but then it escalated pretty quickly.
Oh, it escalated dramatically. The type of content evolved very fast. It began innocently enough. Yeah. Look at this adorable cup I managed to snag. Standard haul video stuff. But algorithms, as we know, thrive on engagement. And what gets engagement, often it's drama, conflict, struggle.
Right. The algorithm doesn't care if it's positive or negative engagement.
Not really. So the videos that started getting the most traction, the most shares, the most comments, were the ones showcasing the difficulty of getting the cup. Suddenly you had videos of these huge queues snaking around blocks, people waiting from like 4 a.m. You had footage of staff looking completely overwhelmed trying to manage these impatient crowds. And then, inevitably, came the footage that really shocked people. The actual physical chaos.
The fighting.
Yeah. Genuine physical frenzy. We're talking viral clips showing people literally scrambling over display units, pushing past each other. There were documented cases of shoppers getting into loud arguments, even physical altercations, all over this one novelty tumbler.
It wasn't polite queuing anymore. It was, as you said, like a Black Friday doorbuster sale, but compressed into this single specific item.
Exactly. That visual was just arresting.
I remember seeing one specific clip. It went everywhere, became a meme almost instantly, where a shopper practically like vaulted over a counter to grab the last one off a shelf.
Yes, I know the one.
That level of physical commitment, I mean, for a cup, it's genuinely mind-boggling.
And that very contrast is pure internet gold, isn't it? The juxtaposition. You've got this object that's designed to be the epitome of soft, innocent, cozy cuteness.
Yeah, a little bear.
And then you have the brutal reality of people practically wrestling for it. That contrast instantly fueled the memes, the commentary, the shares. And the cultural shorthand emerged almost overnight. People started calling it the cup-ocalypse or the Starbucks Hunger Games.
Yeah, the Hunger Games. Yeah, that captures the vibe. That kind of chaos must have put immense pressure on the Starbucks staff on the ground. Did the company have to step in, like implement crowd control or purchase limits?
Oh, absolutely. They had to react fast. The sources report a pretty quick pivot to emergency measures in the really high-impact locations. You saw Starbucks staff in multiple regions being forced to implement strict purchase limits, often just 1 or maybe 2 cups per person, which, of course, only adds to the perceived scarcity.
Right. The limit itself becomes proof of how desirable it is.
Totally. And in some stores, they actually had to bring in security guards, specifically to manage the lines and, immediate disputes between customers.
Security guards. For a coffee shop selling holiday merch.
It's pretty wild when you think about it. When a global corporation needs security details and strict rationing just to stop customers from, potentially injuring each other over a novelty item, the demand has spiraled way beyond anything normal. That manufactured scarcity had become very, very real on the ground. Dangerously real in some cases.
And okay, once that scarcity was cemented by the queues, the limits, the viral videos of the fights, the value immediately shot up, didn't it? It shifted straight to the online resale market, digital arbitrage, right?
Correct. The official supply in stores basically evaporated almost instantly in many places, hours, sometimes minutes, and then boom, the secondary market online just exploded. The immediate impact was staggering. We saw resale prices documented on platforms like eBay, Etsy, Taobao in China, hitting, up to $200, even $300 for a single cup.
$300. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because we're talking about resellers, maybe professional scalpers, who grabbed these things for what, maybe $20, $30, $40 retail price?
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
And then flipping them for markups easily exceeding 500%. That's just incredible profit margin.
And this is where we need to understand it's not just like a few lucky individuals flipping a cup they decided they didn't want. The sources suggest that a significant number of these bear cups were likely bought by professional or semi-professional resellers, scalpers who specialize in these limited edition drops.
We do this for a living.
Yes. They often use sophisticated methods, maybe automated bots to monitor online stock if any is available, or they have networks to know exactly when and where to queue up strategically. For them, this bear cup wasn't a cute holiday souvenir. It was a high-velocity, high-profit asset, pure and simple.
And the speed of that reselling, seeing those $300 listings pop up almost immediately, that must have just poured gasoline on the fire, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It further stoked the frenzy. Because when ordinary people saw those $300 price tags online, it acted as this powerful, visible validation. It confirmed the perception that this item wasn't just cute. It was also a verifiable, valuable commodity. It must be special if someone's paying that much for it.
So the immediate financial value, the potential profit, became part of the trend's own narrative. The reason you had to rush out and fight for it was because it wasn't just desirable, it was instantly profitable if you could get one.
Precisely. That price inflation online functioned as this constant, visible scorecard of scarcity and desirability. And this brings us right back to the role of the algorithm in all this. The violence, the long queues, the $300 resale price, all of that chaotic, dramatic content feeds directly into what we call algorithmic amplification.
Okay, break that down a bit more. Algorithmic amplification. How does the code on TikTok or Xiaohongshu actually turn, videos of people fighting over a cup into a form of marketing? How does it decide that this chaos is good content to show more people?
It's essentially a positive feedback loop, driven entirely by engagement metrics. The algorithm isn't making a moral judgment, right? It's just crunching numbers. So when a video, say, one of the woman vaulting the counter or a clip showing a queue wrapping around a whole city block hits the platform, what happens? It generates really high dwell time. People stop scrolling to watch the drama unfold. It gets high shareability. Users send it to their friends saying, "Can you believe this?"
Oh.
And it generates massive comment volume. People arguing, laughing, expressing outrage, asking where they can get one.
So high views, high shares, high comments.
Exactly. The algorithm sees these intense engagement signals, and it interprets them not as, a sign of social breakdown or consumer absurdity, but purely as a measure of relevance and interest. Its programming essentially concludes, wow, people are spending a lot of time engaging with this Bear Cup content. Therefore, we must show it to more people.
And showing it to more people.
Convinces millions of additional consumers that this cup is the single hottest, most important, must-have scarce item of the season, which then drives them out to the stores, often fruitlessly, trying to find one.
Which in turn creates even more real-world scarcity, more potential for long lines or disappointment, maybe even more desperate behavior.
Generating even more chaotic content for the algorithm to find and boost. See the loop.
Yeah. It's a self-accelerating cycle. The system effectively weaponizes human panic and FOMO fear of missing out.
That's a good way to put it. And that's why the speed of this mania felt so different, so much faster than, say, older collectible crazes from the pre-social media era. It's that mechanism of high-speed digital feedback that takes the initial, maybe somewhat artificial, manufactured scarcity and spirals it into genuine consumer panic at an unprecedented velocity.
Okay, so just to recap the mechanics, Starbucks designs this aesthetically perfect object, applies the proven scarcity drop model, targets the right markets, and then the algorithms on platforms like TikTok and XHS basically grab the resulting human desperation and turn it into a massive free global marketing campaign.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the sequence.
But why this specific aesthetic? Why the bear? Why cute? This seems like the perfect bridge into the cultural analysis part. Why do we as consumers crave the cute so intensely?
This is where we really need to dig into the deeper cultural drivers. And the first, most obvious component is how deliberately the design taps into the whole kawaii or cute aesthetic.
Kawaii, we hear that word a lot. It's more than just cute, isn't it?
Oh, much more. Kawaii is this massive, globally influential cultural movement that originated in Japan. Its roots are complex, sometimes seen as a kind of soft rebellion against rigid social norms, emphasizing qualities like childishness, approachability, vulnerability, harmlessness. Visually, it champions things like soft edges, pastel colors, small scale, big eyes, and very often anthropomorphic features giving human-like qualities to animals or even inanimate objects. Like a teddy bear on a cup.
And yeah, while it started in Japan with things like Hello Kitty,
The ultimate kawaii icon, maybe?
it's absolutely everywhere now. Plush toys, animation, fashion, food, and clearly consumer cats like this cup.
Completely globalized. And a big reason for that is how well it translates across cultures and, crucially, across visual social media platforms. The Bear Cup was engineered to be instantly recognizable, instantly desirable to this huge, digitally native global audience that's fluent in visual culture. It hits a very specific, very resonant emotional chord. It triggers this immediate sense of warmth, comfort, and desire.
But the sources were suggesting that the desire to actually own this cup went way beyond just liking how it looked or even wanting a new tumbler. It seemed deeply tied into ideas of social validation status.
Ah, yes. That's the real currency in the drop model today, isn't it? It's not just about the object. It's about what owning the object signifies. When you manage to get the Bear Cup, especially during that peak frenzy, you gained critical secondary value. What does that mean? Well, first, yeah, you signal aesthetic taste. You're basically saying, I get it. I participate in and understand this global cute culture trend. My taste is aligned with what's current.
Okay, so it's a taste signal.
But maybe more importantly, particularly in the digital sphere, where you perform your identity, you demonstrate trend awareness, and critically, capability.
Capability, meaning what?
Capability means you were savvy enough, dedicated enough, maybe lucky enough to actually acquire this scarce item. Maybe you were capable of waking up at 4 a.m. and standing in line for hours. Maybe you were capable of navigating the chaos inside the store. Or maybe you were capable of winning a bidding war on the volatile resale market.
Ah, so owning it is proof you succeeded where others failed.
Exactly. Owning the Bear Cup becomes tangible proof, which you then display to your followers on TikTok, on Instagram, on Xiaohongshu, that you are plugged in, you are successful within the rules of consumer culture, you are an active, capable participant.
Yeah.
The content you create with the cup, the unboxing video, the aesthetic shot of it on your desk, that content validates your status within that online community.
So the cup itself is almost like a ticket.
Yeah.
A ticket to belonging in that moment. The real value isn't necessarily in drinking coffee from it every day.
Probably not, no.
The value is in being able to create that high status, high engagement content with it right when everyone is talking about it.
It's basically a temporary content generation device.
Yeah.
And yeah, the value probably dissipates pretty quickly once the trend cycle moves on. And this whole phenomenon, this need for cute, comforting, status signaling objects, it also aligns really neatly with a broader trend. Commentators have started calling cozy consumerism.
Cozy consumerism. Okay, let's unpack that term. How does the sort of general mood, the current global climate, influence why people might desperately want a cute, soft-looking bear cup?
Well, it seems directly tied to this psychological need for manageable comfort and control, especially during times of widespread anxiety or uncertainty. Think about the backdrop, right? The post-pandemic world, inflation worries, economic instability, political tensions, climate anxiety. The macro world can feel pretty cold, unpredictable, overwhelming, even dangerous.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So when the big picture feels out of control, consumers often retreat, psychologically, into seeking comfort and control in their immediate environment, in the things they can buy and possess. They seek refuge in products that offer soft, comforting, easily managed aesthetics. It's sort of an echo of the old lipstick effect theory, you know?
Remind me of that one.
The idea that during economic downturns, people cut back on big luxury purchases, cars, expensive vacations, but they still treat themselves to small, affordable luxuries, like a new lipstick. Things that provide a little mood boost without breaking the bank.
Okay, so the bear cup is like the lipstick of 2020's anxiety.
Yeah, you could sort of see it that way, yeah. It's affordable escapism. It offers this small, tangible, visually soothing hit of perceived happiness and comfort. It stands in direct contrast to all those big, scary anxieties swirling around. It's a safe, maybe slightly nostalgic piece of comfort that you can actually buy and hold.
Okay, so the convergence makes sense now. You've got the powerful aesthetic pull of kawaii culture. You've got the deeper psychological need for cozy escapism in uncertain times. And then you layer on the immense status value derived from algorithmically amplified scarcity.
It's a multi-layered desirability bomb, as you put it earlier.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why retail experts looking at this describe the Bear Cup's success as a perfect storm, because it perfectly synthesized those key elements. You had the right design, that irresistible cuteness. You had the perfect timing release during the holiday season, tapping into that desire for comfort and nostalgia. And crucially, you had the algorithmic amplification social media supercharging the scarcity narrative and the visual desire.
And without that last piece, the algorithm.
The demand might still have been high, sure. Starbucks collectors would have wanted it. But that global frenzy, the pews, the fights, the $300 resale prices, that likely wouldn't have materialized at the same scale or speed without the algorithms fanning the flames.
Right. We've established the speed and scale are new, driven by digital platforms. But the underlying psychology, the collector's impulse, that's not entirely new, is it?
No.
You mentioned earlier the historical comparison that commentators drew the Beanie Baby mania of the 90s. We should probably dig into that parallel a bit more. How is this similar and how is it different?
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we definitely see echoes of earlier collectible frenzies. And the Beanie Baby comparison is immediate and powerful, isn't it? In both cases, you have a relatively inexpensive, mass-produced item, a little plush toy back then, a plastic or ceramic cup now, that suddenly gains this immense short-term perceived value purely because of limited releases and manufactured scarcity. People in the 90s weren't really buying Beanie Babies to, like, play with them. Right?
No, they were keeping the tags on, putting them in plastic cases.
Exactly. Hoarding them in pristine condition because of this speculative belief, this hope, that they would become incredibly valuable long-term investments. And the emotional hooks feel similar too. The cuteness factor, maybe a bit of nostalgia, comfort, but paired very explicitly with that investment angle, the promise of future wealth driven by scarcity. It became like this weird emotional asset class.
But the mechanism that drove the Beanie Baby craze feels completely different in terms of speed and how the information spread. It felt like a much slower burn, built on rumor, collector magazines.
Precisely. That's the crucial divergence. The Beanie Baby bubble inflated relatively slowly over several years in the mid to late 90s. It was sustained by things like dedicated collector price guides, print magazines, specialized websites that were just emerging, and just plain old word-of-mouth rumor at flea markets and toy shows.
Right, I remember those price guide magazines.
The hype cycle was comparatively slow. It lasted for years, really, driven by this deeply entrenched, almost quasi-religious belief that these 50-cent beanbags were going to pay for kids' college educations. The primary focus was absolutely on future monetary value, speculation.
Okay, so slow burn, future value focus for Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
How does the Bear Cup compare?
The Bear Cup bubble contrastingly inflated in, 48 hours? It reached peak hysteria within maybe a week or two, tops. And it was sustained not by a belief in long-term financial appreciation, but by the need for an immediate, high-speed dopamine hit of belonging and status acquisition right now, in this moment.
Ah, so it's about the present, not the future.
Exactly. You needed that Bear Cup instantly to participate in the online conversation, to generate the viral content while it was trending, to earn that social validation from your peers today. This highlights a really fundamental shift, I think, in consumer behavior, particularly with collectibles driven by online hype. The modern frenzy is often high burn, rapid cycle, driven by immediate visual status and participation. The 90s frenzy was slower burn, more investment focused, driven by speculative future value, different motivations, different speeds.
That distinction makes a lot of sense. The speed of the trend really dictates its purpose. If it moves incredibly fast, like the Bear Cup, it's primarily about signaling status today. If it moves slower, like Beanie Babies, it allows for the fantasy of wealth tomorrow.
Well put.
Okay, so we've covered the mechanics, the cultural psychology, the historical parallels. Now we really need to address the critical perspective that emerged, the pushback found in the sources. When people looked at this whole frenzy, especially coming from a massive corporation like Starbucks, critics immediately pointed to what they saw as a pretty glaring core contradiction.
Yes, and this is maybe the most necessary part of the analysis, stepping back from just observing the phenomenon. Critics quite rightly highlighted this fundamental ethical contradiction, specifically pitting Starbucks' own public relations messaging against the reality of this merchandise strategy.
What's the contradiction exactly?
Well, Starbucks, like many huge global brands today, invests very heavily in cultivating a public image centered around sustainability, environmental responsibility. They actively encourage customers to use reusable tumblers, like the ones they sell, precisely to reduce single-use cup waste. They talk about ethical sourcing, reducing their carbon footprint. They position themselves as a conscious, responsible corporation.
Okay, that's the image. But the Bear Cup strategy seems to encourage the exact opposite behavior, doesn't it?
That's the core of the criticism. Absolutely. The frenzy over the Bear Cup directly undermines that carefully crafted sustainability message. It promotes this overwhelming, frenetic, and arguably quite wasteful demand for a highly collectible consumer good, an item that, whether it's made of plastic or ceramic, is being purchased by many, perhaps most, people almost exclusively for novelty, status, and collectability, not primarily for its reusable utility.
Because the goal of a collectible is often just to sit there, right? On a shelf, unused.
Yeah. Often, yes. It becomes a static symbol, not an active tool for reducing waste. So critics argue, quite persuasively I think, that the corporation knowingly deployed a mechanism, manufactured scarcity that guarantees a surge in consumption. A mechanism that leads to logistical chaos, transportation emissions for a short-lived product, and encourages potentially aggressive, even wasteful consumer behavior, all while simultaneously claiming to champion waste reduction and environmental consciousness.
It creates this real cognitive dissonance, doesn't it, between the green-tinted marketing and the profit-driven reality of the hype machine.
Exactly. It's that moment where you realize that for many large retailers, the undeniable profit and media buzz generated by manufactured scarcity, the guaranteed rush, the free advertising from the online frenzy often seems to outweigh the genuine commitment to their stated environmental or ethical principles.
The hype sells, the ethics, maybe become a secondary consideration when those kinds of profits are on the line.
It certainly looks that way from the outside.
Sure.
And it raises really serious questions about the entire life cycle of these kinds of must-have items. What is the actual environmental cost of designing, manufacturing, shipping millions of these limited edition cups globally, only for a significant portion of them to be bought not for regular reuse, but to sit sealed in a box in a collector's closet or get flipped immediately on a secondary market, maybe shipped again?
Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable tension, especially for a brand that puts sustainability front and center in its corporate messaging.
It is.
Okay, so pulling this all together then. So what does this all mean? If we synthesize this whole Bear Cup phenomenon, the cuteness, the chaos, the reselling, the critiques, what's the main takeaway? What does it reveal about modern culture and consumerism?
I think the Bear Cup serves as this almost perfect miniature illustration of how manufactured hype operates in the digital age, full stop. It demonstrates vividly how a relatively simple, inexpensive object, when it's strategically layered with scarcity, given high aesthetic appeal, and then critically subjected to that intense algorithmic amplification, it can genuinely become a global obsession overnight. It's a powerful testament to the speed and force of that digital feedback loop we talked about.
So it shows the power of the hype machine.
Definitely. But I think on a deeper, more human level, the sheer intensity of the frenzy reveals something about our desire for connection, for belonging. In a world that can often feel quite fragmented, maybe isolating, participating in a massive, shared, real-time global trend, even one as slightly absurd as fighting for a Starbucks cup provides this jolt of social currency. It offers validation. It creates a powerful, if temporary, sense of shared experience.
You feel like you're part of something big that's happening right now.
Exactly. You belong to the group that knows about the bear cup trend. And even better, if you manage to get one, you belong to the elite subgroup that possesses the coveted artifact. It confirms your place in the cultural conversation.
And that shared experience, that little win of getting the cup, maybe it feels like a small, manageable dose of success or comfort.
A localized bit of cozy comfort you can acquire.
Yeah, that helps maybe offset some of those bigger, unmanageable anxieties about the world we were discussing. It's like consumer goods are stepping in to fill an emotional or social gap.
I think that's a big part of the appeal, yes. And because the sources themselves brought up that Beanie Baby parallel so strongly, that comparison leaves us with a really interesting, maybe slightly provocative final thought. Especially thinking about the digital nature of this craze.
Right, the longevity question. What happens next?
Exactly. When the perceived value of an item is driven almost entirely by this rapid-fire social status signaling and algorithm-fueled hype, the rate at which that value decays or depreciates is often just as incredibly fast. We know what happened with Beanie Babies, right? The bubble burst spectacularly. It led to huge financial disappointment, even losses, for people who had genuinely invested thousands of dollars over years based on those collector guides and rumors.
Right, basements full of worthless plush toys.
Pretty much. So we have to ask you, the listener, to think about this. What is the true shelf life of these digital era collectibles? The ones driven solely by this kind of high-velocity, visually driven algorithmic hype. Will those bear cups that people paid $300 for on eBay still feel valuable in 6 months? Or will they be gathering dust on a shelf once the next equally cute, equally scarce, algorithmically boosted item takes center stage?
Is the value purely tied to that fleeting moment of peak viral attention? And when the algorithm inevitably finds the next shiny object, the next bit of drama to amplify, does the bear cup instantly revert to just being, well, a cup?
It really makes you question the nature of value for any must-have item you see trending on your feed, doesn't it? Is this thing an enduring asset? Or is it just a very sophisticated, very fast-moving bubble destined to pop?
It's a fascinating question, and it definitely makes you look at the economics of cuteness and hype with a much more critical eye. Thank you for really meticulously unpacking the chaos and connecting all those dots for us, the strategy, the psychology, the algorithms, the history, the ethics. It's quite a story.
It really is. Yeah. A sign of the times, perhaps.
Indeed. And to our listener, thank you for joining us for this exploration into the world of scarcity, status, and the surprisingly dramatic life of a holiday coffee cup. Next time on Trending Unpacked, filmmaker Mira Nair, whose bold storytelling connects art, identity, and activism.